How we're doing it yet.
The mics are live, Debbie.
The mics are live. So. I just walk them over right to. Okay. I want to get right down to business. And I want to thank everybody in this room and the other room for coming. And it's really overwhelming to see so many people who care. And it is. And right before this, I just did a teletown hall, and there were 11,000 people on it. Which has never happened. I'm going to just we're doing this. We were all together last Friday and talking about how people cared and they wanted to talk. And we are a team that you see up here. And we want to be accessible and we want to talk about what's on your mind and answer your questions and how do you engage. And so we all said, well, let's, we do town halls together. But this was only last Friday. That's why you didn't see it till this weekend. Everybody said, let's do a town hall. So we said, well, when should we try to do it? And Jennifer Conlin goes, Thursday. I went, Thursday? And I was like, well, I haven't town hall before, but sure, we'll do it. And Jason got put in charge of finding the place and and everybody here, like, we all did the work because we wanted to be here. And we're a team of people that care. And I'm not going to talk a lot now. We'll go down quickly. And look, these are times we need to care. There are a lot of things going on, and it's not normal times. So let's go down the row and let's get right to your questions. And then after this, we'll all be available. We'll mingle, and we feel really bad. We feel really good and bad at the same time that there's an overflow room. We've never filled this auditorium when we've done a town hall here before, and there are two rooms because people are that scared. So let's just go down, start with Sue, and get to it.
Hi, so I'm Sue Shink. I represent kind of the northwest, north-left corner of Washtenaw County, and also a lot of Jackson County. And it's an amazing place to be able to represent because there are people of almost, I would say, any walk of life, any kind of background, and people who are really engaged in the community. I'm really glad to see you all here. I know you probably have other things you might like to be doing, and I appreciate that you're here, and I appreciate that you care. And I guess I'll pass it on to Jeff Irwin then.
Thank you, Senator Shink. I'm Jeff Irwin. I share Washtenaw County with Sue Shink in the state Senate. Thank you. I want to share with all of you that it's a tremendous pleasure and honor representing this community, as evidenced by the incredible turnout of folks who are coming out to talk about what we can do to save our country from the reckless, illegal, and dangerous things that are happening in D.C. It's a scary time. It's a frustrating time. It's a time that, for me, has been filled with anger and soul-searching about what can we do to save our country. And I'm just really proud to be in coalition with these partners and with all of you so that we can keep our heads up, keep our heads on a swivel, watch for the right things to do, communicate with each other effectively about what those things are, and then continue to rinse and repeat and do them to block, obstruct, delay, and hold back anything we can do to stop these monsters from destroying our country.
Good evening, everybody. I'm State Rep Carrie Rheingans. I represent part of Western Ann Arbor, Western Washtenaw, Southeast Jackson County. And thank you. I saw plenty of District 47 constituents in here, so thank you so much for coming. The thing I'm really focused on right now is that we have a pandemic happening among birds, wild birds, but we need to stop it from happening between humans. And if you're going to try to stop the bird flu pandemic from getting to be a human-to-human pandemic, you don't fire 25% of the USDA staff who does the testing. So we're trying to take action at the state level, but our state government can't backfill the 42% of our state budget that's from the feds. And we've talked a lot to our congresswoman. We have the best and hardest working congresswoman in the whole country, and we're very fortunate. We're very fortunate to have her as a partner and representing us. So that's what's on my mind right now. I'm sure my colleagues will talk about the shenanigans that happen in Lansing that are mirroring the shenanigans that are happening in DC. The chaos is the point, and we can't afford this cost of chaos.
Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm Jason Morgan, and we are in my district now. Proud to represent downtown Ann Arbor over to, over here and up to Superior and a little bit Oakland and Wayne counties. We are so thankful that you are here because you're absolutely right. I mean, we need to block, delay, obstruct, and do everything within our power to stop the attacks on the American people. Thank you. I mean, that's the thing. All of us up here, like, we aren't messing around. We get it. We know how serious it is, and we are not messing around. We never do, never have, and never will. We are serious about this. So we've been really focused on what's happening in Washington lately, but that chaos that's happening in Washington, D.C., our House Republicans just brought that here to Michigan today. They passed a surprise budget bill that cuts school funding in Michigan by $5 billion. $5 billion. We had half an hour notice that they were slipping in a substitute for a bill and putting it up for a vote to cut $5 billion out of our school budget and to cut the entire state budget by 92%. Right. They're bringing that crap here. And we had been so far trying to do what we could at the state level and work across the aisle as much as possible, but we can't do that. So we all stayed together today. We voted no, and we stood up, and Carrie was shouting. A lot of people were shouting. And we don't usually do that because we try and maintain decorum, but you can't maintain decorum when things are so effed up. Like, this is not normal. It's not acceptable. We cannot accept this. And so I will stop there, but I will just say, like, we have people who are one paycheck away from losing their home. We have people who are one missed medical bill away from losing their prescription that keeps them alive. These things can literally cost people's lives. And so thank you for being here. We are with you. We know how serious this is, and I'm excited to get to the questions and to talk for real about what we can do about this.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jimmie Wilson. I'm the state representative. Thank you. I'm the state representative out of the Ypsilanti area, House District 32. That covers Ypsilanti City, Ypsilanti Township, and parts of Superior and Pittsfield Township. Rep. Morgan was right. Everything that's occurring in D.C., what you're seeing on TV, House Republicans right now are trying to implement the same things here at the state level, but we're not going to let that happen. We're going to be working with our governor, our senators. We're going to be block, delay, obstruct, no excuses. Also, Rep. Morgan, he mentioned some of the things that they stripped out of the budget. They also stripped out the entire budget for our Eagle department, our environmental department, they stripped out. No, they don't care about environmental protections. They clearly don't care about the Great Lakes. They stripped out the entire budget for our Attorney General. We need our Attorney General now more than ever, but we're going to be fighting back as much as possible on all these things. So thank you all for coming out.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. I'm State Rep Jennifer Conlin. I represent House District 48. I am your one swing district here in Ann Arbor. I represent Northwest Ann Arbor, Western Washtenaw, and I go all the way up to Howell. So I have Ann Arbor to Howell, which is a pretty interesting district. I can talk a lot about how I am talking to Republicans up in the northern part of my district and what I'm hearing from them. If people are interested, I'm also a caretaker. My 91-year-old mother lives with me, and to go and have to tell her last week that telehealth might be going away April 1st was devastating because I can't get her to doctor's appointments at this point. She needs that. So, and also they did zero out the DHHS budget today too, so.
Okay, so is there a mic in the?
There's a mic there and a mic there.
Okay, so people who want to ask questions, come onto the mic, and we're all going to answer them and comment. I really wasn't kidding when I said we organized this ourselves and last minute.
Debbie, we should emphasize we really want questions. You know, if you just because there's so many folks, if you can really try and ask questions as much as possible, that'd be great. But I know how these things go.
Please go ahead. Oh, sorry.
This lovely man says it's on now.
I did. Thank
My name's Lori Curry. I live in Willis. I've been in this area since 2007. I moved out here from Lansing. Always been a bleeding heart liberal Democrat. Thank you very much. Also worked for the DHHS. Was a foster care worker, CPS worker. Now I help people get food and Medicaid. And I'm hearing it and seeing it every day. And I'm wondering now, am I going to have a job, right? People are scared. People who've never applied for assistance before calling in and saying, am I going to have my Social Security? I don't know. They're saying, they come in the office, am I going to have food stamps? I don't know. You know, and for the idea of people who are rich and taking advantage of the system, it just disgusts me. I've been on welfare too. I've been on food. I've been on Medicaid. My daughter who has MS needs Medicaid to be alive, right? She still lives with me, her and my granddaughter. I cannot imagine this stuff is going away. So we can do our protests and stuff and go out to Tesla and hold our signs and everything, but what are the actual actions that are happening to stop these three stooges in Washington from destroying our country? What are the actions?
So, look, I'm going to give you reality, and I'm going to tell you what I think all of us have ideas about how we fight back. Here's the reality. The reality is Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. And some would say
Right.
the judiciary branch, but we're winning in the courts. I say we got to have, we got to litigate, and here's a reality. We have not lost in a court. We have not won, just a couple cases, but it's based on who brought the case, that they didn't have standing. The Supreme Court has ruled against Donald Trump twice, which is nobody thought would ever happen. So we got to litigate, we got to legislate, and it only takes 3 Republicans. We unfortunately lost a colleague in the last 24 hours on the Democratic side, but at this point, it takes 3 Republicans to win, so we're legislating, and we've got to really create pain, and Republicans need to understand how their constituents feel and what they want. We got to educate, we got to advocate, and we got to communicate. And that's just the reality right now. And I think that you're seeing Democrats struggle with, okay, it can't be business as usual. I mean, that was what you saw at the State of the Union. How do you fight this? But we fight it with our collective voices. People have to be engaged. And we're all here. We're not running and hiding. I'm going to do town halls it's... Now, somebody here said to me that we need to, that it isn't normal times, and it's not. And that Rachel Maddow is showing protests on her show every night. What we've got to do is to make sure Republican members of Congress understand how you feel, and we have to make sure President Trump is still, I know he's trying to be King Trump, and President Musk is, I'm not sure what he's trying to be, but that he does pay attention to public sentiment. I mean, it's why you see tariffs one day, the next day you don't, stock market. You've got to make sure that, here's part of the problem. We all want to hear from you. You can call my office. We actually answer our phone. But what we got to figure out is, if we protest here, you know, we'll all be there and we'll make noise, but we're not who we're trying to impact. We gotta be effective. You gotta talk to everybody that you know that lives in another state, that lives in another, to really make the collective voices heard. I'm gonna remind people that George Bush tried to privatize Social Security. And this country stood up strong. We have to stand up strong and show what we will not stand for. And we cannot let them take away. You know, he says he's not going to cut Social Security. When you close 1,000 offices, fire 2,500 people, and talk about firing 50% of the staff, that's touching Social Security. And make sure he holds them accountable. You know, tonight we're talking about, do we do a national town hall? Have everybody hold a town hall on the same night? You see who's not holding them. Give us your ideas. Be creative. You wouldn't be here if you weren't engaged, but we got to get everybody engaged.
The only thing I would, thank you, Debbie. The only thing I would add to that is that, I mean, I want to say this. Sometimes it feels very unsatisfying when we're up against what we're up against and we're seeing some of the changes that are being made that are so unethical, so corrupt, so illegal. It feels like speaking out and sharing information and organizing in the ways we've always organizing is not, it's not satisfying. It doesn't feel equal to the task. And so I want to say that. But what I also want to say, to buttress what the Congresswoman just said, is that it actually is working. And I think we need to acknowledge that. We've seen it with the tariffs. Now we're seeing it with the budget reconciliation fight. The Republicans are already starting to say, well, maybe we'll change the budget rules so we don't have to actually pay for our programs. Well, that's going to turn back on some of their budget hawks, and we need to make sure that their budget hawks pay for that, right? And so I just want to acknowledge that it is working, and we're seeing the public pressure have an impact. Right here in Michigan, there are a number of congresspeople who want to be reelected. And some of them, if they vote for cuts to Social Security and Medicaid, they're not going to get reelected. And we need to make sure that cycle of accountability works. And by speaking out, by sharing good information, by organizing, and I think there's more we need to do, but doing those things, it really does work.
I just want to add a little bit, and I know a lot of people want to say stuff, and I want to hear from you. My parents are Trumpers, and early on in Trump's regime, or whatever you want to call it, when they talked about, and they stopped the Medicare $2 prescription program. And I told my mom, and she hasn't changed her mind yet, but she said he wasn't supposed to do that. He was supposed to lower costs. And, you know, we can say no kidding. Like, I put a lot of effort into understanding all the bad things he was going to do, which he's doing. But a lot of people who supported him, they don't know because they've been watching Fox News. They've been watching propaganda. My mom and dad did see you on TV today, and they appreciate that, and I appreciate it. But Debbie Dingell goes out on Fox, and she tells the truth. And in all of our spheres, I know it feels like it's not working, but in all of our spheres, it doesn't cost us any money to talk to our friends and relatives, because in Michigan, we all have friends and relatives who are Trumpers. And don't tell them they're wrong, but tell them how it's hurting them. And I've also heard from some people who are in prestigious positions that they know that certain congresspeople who are Republicans are advocating for them in the back rooms. Well, that's awesome. Let's keep the pressure on them, because that helps. We don't want people to go without food. We don't want them to go without medicine. We don't want kids to go without education. But also put pressure on, gentle pressure, please, on some of the people who we think maybe should be standing up and speaking out louder, and who sound like they're siding with Trump, and they've probably got a reason to do it. But let's talk to them about being brave and making sure that they feel supported to be brave, because it is a little scary, and not everybody's wired that way. I think all of us are wired that way, but not everybody else is. So that's just a couple bits. Thank you.
Okay, and
Can I add one thing? Because if you live in Northwest Ann Arbor, you do not just have Debbie Dingell as your congressperson. You also have Tom Barrett. You are in House District 48. You have two congresspeople. You have Tom Barrett, the newly elected Republican representative up in Howell, and you also have Debbie in Livingston, and you also have Debbie Dingell. So You need to reach out. It's actually good to be in a swing district right now. You're preaching to the choir with Debbie Dingell. There's another congressman who represents you in House District 48, and that is Tom Barrett.
I want to build on what Rep. Conlin just said, because as our Congresswoman said, it takes 3 votes in the U.S. Congress, in the House, to defeat a bill. And we have 3 congressmen who happen to be in very purple districts. And, it's kind of collegial not to sick people on your colleagues, so I'm not asking Congresswoman Dingell to do this, but I want you to tell your friends in Bill Huizenga's district, in Tom Barrett's district, and in John James' district, they need to go talk to them every day and make them vote no on this terrible budget that they're trying to pass. Sorry, Debbie.
No, that's okay. The way we're going to do this is we'll go, and you've got a story to tell.
I'll keep it short, I promise.
No, but, well, and then when we'll go to the overflow room, so everybody feels like they're having the opportunity. So not all of us are going to answer every question.
First of all, my name is Nicole Rice. I am a city councilor in the city of Saline, and some of my council colleagues are here, and we are representing some of our neighbors who are up there as well. So I want to say thank you for having the guts to get in front of us to talk and to answer these questions. I am also Nicole Rice, a former federal employee. According to the December 2024 CRS report to Congress, 29,610 federal employees live in Michigan, and 6,371 are here in the 6th district. If you're a federal employee, past or present, raise your hand. We work for NOAA, we work for the USGS, we work for EPA, we work for Homeland Security, we work for the National Forest Service, the IRS, the Department of Defense, the Social Security Administration, and the VA. Over the past 6 weeks, we've been threatened, humiliated, dehumanized, and tormented by the current administration. On February 27th, after leaving a doctor's appointment with less than 90 minutes notice, I was terminated in my 13 continuous years of civil service, the 10 most recent being at NOAA, simply because I was promoted for my excellent work. I am disabled. I was left with no information, no health care options. Because we were fired in such a hostile way, we have not, nor do we know how to receive our dismissal paperwork to file for unemployment. Our lives are upended. Governor Westmore of Maryland and others are devoting resources to help federal employees get through this time of uncertainty. We've heard very little in Michigan from our local government, to include our governor, our senators, and our representatives. What are you doing to support those who were legally fired and those who are still working hard for our communities in Michigan, despite the undeserved fear and pressure put upon them by this administration? We demand your help.
Wants to take that from the state?
I think a good answer is we will get right on that. We've been trying to collect stories. I hadn't understood that you couldn't just go get unemployment. And I'm not trying to downplay the situation. I'm so glad that you brought that to our attention. And I will be working on that immediately. My staff is here, the same people who are going to help me work on that. So thank you.
Thank you.
I promise you, everybody here is going to. And I've been very strong on NOAA. Thank you.
So unemployment is a state level item, and we faced mass layoffs and high unemployment in the COVID pandemic. So we have experience rapidly turning around unemployment applications. So I think this is something that many of us have been talking about in Lansing. Part of the cost of this chaos is trying to backfill unemployment and an increase in unemployment when we already have budget issues and we might even have further issues. So this is something we are already talking about, but I know that we in the House have talked about it, and Senator Shink just mentioned this, but I do think this is something that we can also bring to the governor to ask for more attention to that as well. So thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you. So I don't know who's got the mic on the overflow room, but we want to make sure. So how are we going to? Thank you. So I don't know who's got the. Okay, this isn't working. Zach?
Okay.
Hey, you guys, we weren't kidding when we said we did this. We're going to take another question here while our team, you guys, we really did do this ourselves, you can tell, because we care. So while we figure out how to help, Felicia, you're in the back. Will you help us figure out how we make sure that room gets, so we give assignments to, you know, like our colleagues that are kind of, and we'll go to you and we'll make sure we know how the outside room. Thanks, Felicia. Go ahead.
Good evening, and thank you very much for being here, all of you. My name is Karen Moss, and I live in Saline. We're not just living in strange times. We're living in times that are the stuff of nightmares. We are watching our country dismantle before our very eyes. I am afraid that my son will live in a totalitarian state, and that is not an irrational fear. I'm afraid that we will never have a free and fair election again, and that is not an irrational fear. My question to you, which I will preface with one more comment, are you prepared to act as the South Koreans did, to show up in the thousands, the hundreds of thousands, because these times of nightmares require extraordinary measures beyond the traditional political etiquette that we are seeing from Washington? And that we are seeing from our state. And I will say I am disgusted that Hakeem Jeffrey scolded people who were protesting last night. My question is, will you take extraordinary measures? Will you partner with the local resistance groups such as Indivisible and 5051 and the Tesla takedown? Will you use your established channels of communication to partner with us? Tell us where to be. Marshal us, direct us. We want to be there. And I'm hearing lots of generalities about fighting and making my voice heard, but I am not hearing concrete and constructive and creative new playbook plans. Thank you. I respect you all. I support you all. I need your help, and so do we all. Thank you.
So I'm going to come back at you and tell you it's all of our responsibilities. We all have to be creative. We all have to figure out how we do this effectively. We have intentional chaos right now because they want to make it so nobody can focus, nobody knows what to do. And we got to know what the hell we're doing, and we got to make sure we're doing it right. I know everybody here. I did an Indivisible town hall last Saturday. I did an Indivisible. I'm working with them. I want to know your ideas. We've got to make our voices heard. But that's what you see everybody, all Democrats struggling with. How do we effectively push back? What do we do to make the difference? And the biggest difference we make is to make the large collective voice heard. It's all of our responsibilities to make sure the voices, and it's got to be broader than Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County. People expect it from Ann Arbor and Washtenaw County. We have to make sure the voices is a collective voice, and it's heard, the roar is heard from here and joins with other states and congressional districts and goes all the way to Washington, that you will not accept what's happening in our country.
I want to add in just a little bit. I've been politically engaged like my whole entire life, right? And about 8 years ago, I think as I was making anti-deporting placards while I had pneumonia, that I decided that I was going to run for office. And ever since then, my house has been a freaking mess. I have a farm. I got rid of most of my animals. My fences are falling down. My husband goes out on dates to Chain of Lakes family dinners where we don't know anybody. That's a date. So I hear you. Yes, I'm a member of Indivisible. Yes, I will do everything I can. Yes, I campaigned almost every single day last summer and fall to prevent what was happening from happening. I can't do any more than I'm doing. I show up every day to the Senate. I'm doing multiple town halls. I will be at another meeting at 8, and I will be at a town hall at 12:30 in Norvell Township, where we have 30 people RSVP'd, but maybe more will show up. I go on Facebook even though I hate it, and even though every time I go on Facebook, there's somebody there to insult me and tell me that I'm stupid because I'm a liberal, right? So you guys can do all of it. Some people like Facebook, some people like town hall, some people like going door to door, some people like organizing meetings, some people like trolling people, some people like doing fundraisers for Democratic candidates who spend, also that's something I'm supposed to be doing tomorrow but probably don't have time to do. So I'm not saying anybody's wrong, and I'm not saying it's wrong to ask us what are we doing. I'm saying I know from my perspective, I am fighting like as many hours in a day as I have, and my husband is too, and we need more. We need more, and we need people to stop shopping at big box stores. We need you to stop using Amazon. I am on Twitter only because I'm a politician, but maybe I should get off, and maybe we all should get off. Like, find out, and maybe we should stop flying Delta, right? So like, look at who's giving money to Trump. Also, Ford did. But seriously, who's giving money to these people? And let's stop giving our money to them in addition. But there's a whole bunch of stuff you could do, and everybody's got a different personality and something that feels good to them. Find it and build community with your neighbors and get to know your Republican neighbors too. Because one of the things I've learned is that people will cross politics sometimes for someone who lives across the street. And we have to do every single thing we can do because this is freaking scary.
Thank you. Okay, I'm told the overflow room is ready. Thank you, Felicia.
Hi, I would just like to echo what the previous speakers had said about tactics, that I haven't seen a lot of tactics from the Democratic leadership. The messaging has been terrible, honestly. And when the Tea Party came in, they had a small group, and they leveraged their small group to punch above their weight. So I've heard a lot about the fact that we're not in the majority in Congress and in the White House, but where is that leveraging that the Republicans seem to do so effectively, and the Democrats just kind of scratch their heads? So I'd appreciate knowing.
So I'm going to take you back to those tea parties. And do any of you remember the very first Affordable Care Act town hall where 2,000 or 3,000 people showed up when John Dingell was doing it, and people carried guns and people threatened us? John Dingell didn't stand down, but the other side showed up. That's my point. We got to show up. We got to You know, tonight we're talking about, do we do a national town hall? So that every member of Congress does one, and if somebody doesn't, how do you hold those that aren't willing to do them accountable? But it's not just on, we are listening to you, but all of us have to be out there. We can't do it by ourselves. The Tea Party was loud and obnoxious, and they didn't win. The Affordable Care Act passed because we all were strong. Collectively, we got to make those voices heard, loud and strong. Anybody else?
I'll say a couple things. One is, I would just encourage folks to if you're not already, pay very close attention to your congresswoman. I think she is a model of effective activism, going on Fox News, holding town halls, present in the community, showing up at the VA, showing up at NOAA, pointing out the real human harm that is happening as a result of this terrible Trump administration. That's exactly what we need to do. And frankly, when we look back to other movements, the Tea Party was offered. What did the Tea Party do? They held town halls. They showed up at events. They spoke out. They got active on Facebook. So, I think we need to be doing all those things. And I also think, as I said earlier, that right now that does feel a little unsatisfying. But it is working. We need to keep it up, and we need to use that as a platform for our next actions. And when folks are ready to hit the streets, just like 4 years ago and 8 years ago, and many times in between, I'll be right there with you doing that. And I think that we're going to have those types of actions as well. But I really want to push back against this downplaying of people expressing their voices, people talking about how these Medicaid cuts don't just hurt the people who lose Medicaid, but they shut down rural hospitals and they raise our insurance costs across the board for all of us, even those of us who don't have Medicaid. The more that we spread those messages, the more that we are turning this ship of public opinion, which frankly has put Democrats in a position where last election we lost an election against somebody who is a lying maniac who tried to overthrow the government when he lost his last election, right? And why is that? There's a lot of reasons why. I think there's a lot of reasons why. And, sexism and inflation and all sorts of reasons. But one of the reasons was because when Republicans do terrible things, there are many of us who will point the fingers back at the folks who are trying to stop them. And they will say, why aren't you doing more? Well, I want to do more too. And if you've got ideas about how I can do more, share them with me. I want to do more. I feel unsatisfied. I feel that, we need to be doing more at this moment. But I also don't want us to continue forming our group meetings in a circle when we're all armed. Like, let's try to focus our ire and our organizing and our political action against the people who are actually doing the bad things that we oppose.
I want to give you guys a little hope too. The Tea Party, Newt Gingrich lost his speakership. George Bush tried to privatize Social Security. He didn't, because our voices were loud. Look who wins when you organize right. And we have an Affordable Care Act, which he's going to try to destroy, and there's no goddamn way we're going to let him take anybody's health care away.
Yes, Congressman. I'm a retired federal employee also. Don't ask me who I worked for. Even though my cover status was rolled back when I retired, I still get very hesitant talking to anyone or telling anyone, particularly in a group like this, what I did and who I worked for. I'm also an experienced combat veteran, and I'm also listed by the VA as being disabled. And I want to thank you for your service and the other members of the panel for your service. My question is, this morning, 10 Democrats voted to censure Al Green. What is that about? Thank you.
You know what? I'm going to be really blunt here. You believe in free speech? We're a representative government. And I've obviously voted against it. I voted against Rashida Tlaib's censure, and I got, death threats for it. And I worked hard. I didn't maybe agree, I don't agree with her on everything, but I do believe that the right to free speech in this country is one of the most fundamental rights that we have. So I didn't agree with the censure. I voted against it. We're a representative government. Al Green did what he wanted to do, and he had the right to do it. And by the way, we should be applying the rules equally. Marjorie Taylor Greene's allowed to wear a cap, and Lauren Barrett, you know. But we have freedom of speech, and I'm not going to condemn our colleague, and I hope that all of you will fight with me to protect the right to freedom of speech. No, it's in the back. We go outside now. Thank you, Felicia. I didn't mean to stick Felicia with this, but she's a wonderful friend and colleague.
Thank you, Congresswoman Dingell and the entire Washington delegation for coming out and meeting with all of us constituents this evening. As we all know, Trump published on his Truth Social a post which said, all federal funding will stop for any college, school, or university that allows illegal protest. I'm not sure what they're going to define as illegal. Agitators will be imprisoned and people sent back to their home country, and American students will be permanently expelled or arrested. So much for free speech, and thank you, Congresswoman Dingell, especially for mentioning free speech a moment ago. Now, I have a little bit of an issue, and I wanted to ask about Congressman Dingell and I guess the entire delegation, whoever wishes to chime in. What are your positions on Attorney General Dana Nessel following, how else can I say it, following the example of Donald Trump's fascism by criminalizing and prosecuting the University of Michigan students, the Encampment 11 and the Festival 3? A highly unusual, unprecedented move for an Attorney General to prosecute free speech. I mean, shouldn't she be working on all these issues, other issues with Trump now? Thank you.
Okay, first of all, I want to say that, and you're going to yell at me when I say this, but Dana Nessel is one of the leading AGs fighting Donald Trump in the courts, and I thank her for the litigation. And I think we all need, I don't know if you all have seen what he signed today, but he signed some chilling executive orders. And Mark Rubio today is starting to go. They are now taking AI and studying the social media of students, any foreign student in this country. And if they have said anything that is in support of Hamas, and Lord knows how else they're going to take it, they're going to be subject to being deported. Any student that participated in a protest, or they're targeting Columbia, but I'm sure Michigan is not going to be far behind. They're going to be looking to be able to try to deport. He also went after a Perkins Coie law firm and had named a law firm by name and is going after them. And I find this all chilling and fearful. And I will be glad to have this conversation with you offline in the University of Michigan case. But right now, I want to say this to you. We've got an election in 2 years, which I hope we make it to, where we've got to win the House of Representatives back. And I am trying to find a way to bring people together that all care about the future of this country. And circular firing squads are not going to win anything back. They're going to guarantee that we do not win. I will stand up for freedom of speech, the right to protest, the right to demonstrate. We've got to be, and I will not get down to their tactics. I will not support, now I'm about to get in trouble. I don't think I support violence, and I'm worried about violence in the streets. I mean, the first thing that the man did was to release people that came to kill us on January 6th. He says he supports law enforcement, but what does he do? Men that tried to kill and were responsible for the death of law enforcement got released into the community, and that's not right. So, right now, I'm focused on trying to protect our country, to protect our democracy. I know there are very strong feelings about that particular case. I will discuss it offline. I'm not going to contribute to our circular firing squad right now that's going to harm us in winning back the House in 2 years or making our point and protecting what we need. And I do believe in freedom of speech. Anybody else want to comment on that? I suspect not. Try to keep a little humor in here.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to add from my standpoint. I would just say that I strongly support freedom of speech, support the right to protest, support the right to speak out and demonstrate. I'm very worried that those rights are under attack, particularly with what Donald Trump is saying. I haven't actually read the indictments in this case, so I don't know what the actual charges are. I suspect it's not a charge against protesting. So I want to be responsive, but I'm not. I haven't read the filings. I don't feel capable of opining on whether or not she's wrong.
And I want to remind people, they're going to try to divide us. They're going to try to pit us against each other. Please, let us not be pitted against each other. Let us right now remember where our anger, our energy, our advocacy needs to be focused. And it's at President Trump and President Musk.
Around the right to protest, you all probably remember when we did the March on Washington around Roe v. Wade, and we took bus loads of people from Ann Arbor. We were hundreds of thousands in the street. When I think about doing something like that now, I very much worry about the safety of all of us. So that is terrifying, because I don't remember ever worrying about our safety when we went to march on Washington for women's rights and reproductive rights. Vietnam, but and I'm old enough to remember that, right? So it is difficult. I mean, we've had protests in Lansing, and we come out and talk and get on the steps and cheer people on. So that might be a safer place to start, because we have had protests in Lansing, but not huge numbers, you know. So, but again, you know, we want to keep everyone safe too. So that's what's tough about this period, right?
Okay. Hi. March for Science is tomorrow. Stand up for science in Lansing tomorrow.
I know they're asking us to.
My name is Susan Ansick, and I'm from Livingston County, District 7. Hi. Thank you so much for all you do. I can't even imagine your lives right now. I wanted to offer some hope in saying that I think that this could be a time to educate people, specifically the people that are losing their jobs can't all be Democrats. And these people are really suffering just as much, I think, in some ways, and thinking, what did I do? So I think it might be a great opportunity for us to be talking to people that are neighbors, et cetera, who have lost their jobs, and try and engage with them, because they're the people that are also going to help turn this around. I remember saying at a fundraiser we did for Alyssa Slotkin, saying, I don't care with regards to getting involved. I don't care if you write a postcard. I don't care if you make a phone call. I don't care what you do. Do something. Do something. Get up there, get to Lansing, go to offices, stand in front of them and say, we're not going to let you, you need to speak to us. Specifically Tom Barrett, who we flew to DC for a scheduled appointment with him regarding Sierra Club and Line 5, and he walked right through. There were 4 constituents. He walked right through, shut his door. And he's going to have a town hall, but not a town hall, a telehall. So we're hearing, too, that Republicans are told not to have town halls, because I would be at every single one of them. How about you? Thank you.
Thank you.
To that end, thank you, Susan, for coming. We're friends. It is true, Tom Barrett, he has a virtual town hall on Monday night that I don't know if people can register for that if you're not living in District 7, but you can if you are living there. I have been talking to a lot of our Republican constituents who have lost jobs and their kids have lost jobs. And I am not being anything but empathetic and saying, I don't think this is the change you voted for. We need our tent to be bigger. We don't want to just ostracize those who are starting to feel those effects. And I am not making any single one of my constituents who's a Republican feel badly if they are having some buyer's remorse. And we need to be, and I learned this from Debbie Dingell, she said, we have to be really kind to each other right now because this is a time where they want us to really hate each other. We need to be kind. Everybody is starting to feel this way. And I think people on the other side of the aisle are too. And we need to be Americans first, right? This is a threat to our country. I don't care if you're a Republican, I don't care if you're a Democrat. We need to be Americans first at this time of crisis.
I want to give folks an idea of something you can do. Some constituents of Congressman Jack Bergman from the northern part of the state are having a town hall with an empty chair and inviting him. And they're going to ask questions, they're going to record, they're going to send comments to him. That is an idea that folks could do if your congressperson or your friends or cousins or whatever across the state won't actually face their constituents. You set up a town hall, record it, and send it to them and say, sorry, you can't do your job.
Next.
Thank you. My name is Mark Altamare, Washtenaw County District 1. I've heard you all say block, delay, obstruct. Thank you, that's good. I've heard you say that you're working your tails off, and I believe you, and God bless you, and thank you for that. I also hear that the deck is stacked with Congress and the White House and the judiciary. I agree. So it's a tough one, and we own your call to action. I heard that. You guys got to do it too. So yeah, I heard that. But that all sounds like defense to me, and it's very short term. It's like, what are we doing right now? Project 2025 was the long game. On day one, they started running roughshod over our country and our government. So I want to know, my question is, who's working on Project 2026, assuming we have a free and fair election?
Project 28. Let me just say, and I'm not going to go into details, it's a good question, and we're not stupid. Okay.
I just want to very briefly add in that while the situation nationally is quite dire, in Michigan we do still have a Democratic governor, we do still have a Democratic state senate, and I can promise you that in the state senate we're going to be doing everything that we can to make sure that our state government isn't weaponized against the people.
And
thank you.
Okay.
Outside are Felicia.
Hi, I'm Marion from Chelsea. I have a horse farm out that way. And a couple things hit really hard that we're in a coup d'etat. What's going on right now? The only thing that is missing are the tanks rolling down the streets of DC. And everybody's horrified about this, and we really appreciate you doing this. And I was on your phone town hall a couple hours ago. There are 10,500 people, which is fabulous. And we've got to keep doing this. We've got to really push. So my question is, obviously we have a minority, but we really need just 3. And I'm wondering if people have been kind of targeted as far as who we might be able to bring over to the side of sanity. And I truly believe we need to make it very, very painful for Republicans in the House and Senate. And so what can we do? Who can we charge? As well as, of course, being really great to your red neighbors and maybe people you work with, their family, and just trying to be supportive, and maybe they'll start to see the light. But any suggestions you have? I would take.
Well, I think Carrie was already very good at saying purple districts are one place, but I quite frankly don't think you should let anybody off the hook. And I'm not going to disagree with you, and I'm going to make a point, which is I'm not sure that the majority of people agree with President Trump. I think a lot of people didn't care enough to come out and vote in November, and they're living with the consequences. And our job is to also, all of us, it's not just us, it's all of us, is to get people to engage and understand that their country and their democracy is only as strong as those that care enough to be involved and engaged. And our job is to make sure that more people understand their vote has consequences. And I think every Republican, no matter where they serve, every person, Democrat and Republican, some of you are upset at Democrats. Tell them you're upset. I want to hear from people. If you're mad at me, you agree with me. And by the way, in this very 6th district, there are a whole lot of people downriver that think what President Trump is doing is okay. So I want you to understand, we got a lot of different feelings here. But we have to put the human face on it. If I were to ask you all to do one other thing besides making sure that everybody knows how you feel, no matter who that elected representative is to put the human face. To have people understand how people are being impacted. To have people understand what jobs aren't going to be done. And I'm also tired of the demonization of federal government people. They are the doctors and the nurses at the VA hospital. They are the air traffic controllers that keep us safe. They were the nuclear safety experts that were fired and then had to be rehired so that we would be safe. They are the doctors, the bird flu people, the people that keep our food safe, the agriculture. We could go through. It's time for us to say thank you to those government workers, stop the demonization, and make sure people stop taking for granted every day the people that give their life quality and keep them safe. I think we're going to go to a new format because we see everybody that wants to speak. If we had 3 people ask questions and make comments, and then we'll respond to all 3, would that be okay? All right, so we'll go boom, boom, and then outside.
Hello, my name is Conrad Zumhagen. I live in Ann Arbor. I was on the call with Representative Dingell and the other 11,000 people, and I had the pleasure of talking briefly with her one-on-one outside. First, I want to say I voted for some of you. I know some of you. I appreciate and applaud all of you for all the work you do and the good comments here. I've heard a couple of words I'd like to address. One of them is reality. It seems the reality that in less than 6 weeks, we have endured the nothing less than the hostile takeover of our country. That's reality to me. The other word I heard is, and I know we are in the minority, and that's a reality. I do not accept either of those realities. I am not a minority. I am the resistance. I am not a minority. I'm the opposition, and I think many of you are too. Just a couple other things. I've heard extraordinary times. I think that's an understatement, like the Wall Street Journal said about the stupidity of the taxes. That's an understatement. They're incredibly stupid. I think we have to do nothing less in less time than stop Traitor Trump and Chainsaw Musk from doing what they're doing. And I don't think we have time to wait until the next interim elections or the midterms at all. Look what's happened in 6 weeks. I appreciate what the people who spoke before me said, particularly this nice woman here. I don't know you, but I am with you, and if you want to have a protest, I'm there. In fact, I will say that to anybody. I'll be there with a sign. So, in summarizing, I would say I am challenging myself to come up with new, unusual, by the way, all the usual stuff we do, engaging. I've been making the calls, I've been doing all these things, and take the suggestions from Representative Dingell and others. It's not working. It's not enough, period. So I am challenging myself to come up with new, innovative, different, unusual, peaceful yet radical ways to do something to stop this travesty that's going on, affecting all of us. And I would merely ask you to think of new, different, peacefully radical, not the same old stuff you have been doing so well, because it's not enough, it's not working. So that was my question, is what will you do? I don't want you to work harder. What will you do to work smarter, more innovatively, different and unusual to stop what's going on that's killing our country? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go over here.
Coming out this evening and giving us your evening to just field all these comments. My name is Erin Spruta. I recently repatriated. I've spent the last decade living overseas in China, Mexico. I'm married to a German national. So one thing that I think is there's so much hurt in this room that I think it's just important to remember how amazing our nation is. And while we're going through this, I think we can come through the other side if we're willing to not hate the opposition. You know, you can be mad at the leaders, but I think a lot of the people who voted for that held their nose and voted on different line items of this or that, you know? So I think just remember that we're all in this together. I come here for an ask of your help, something that should be a very bipartisan, let's bring our kids a healthier meal kind of ask. Recently, I live here in Ann Arbor Township. Recently, I was at Allen Elementary to have lunch with my 5-year-old. And I noticed that they had sugared milk, flavored milk. And 2 options are chocolate milk and strawberry milk. They also have skim and 1%. Whole milk, 2%, not on the menu. So in your strawberry milk, there's 22 grams of sugar. This is 22 grams of sugar in an 8-ounce glass of milk. So I am asking, can we ban that? I'm not banning it. I'm not saying to ban it from the supermarkets. I believe in free markets, and that will dictate things. But can we go forward? Because if we have 180 days of school and each child has 1 milk, we are looking at nearly 9 pounds of sugar when we're facing this national epidemic of diabetes amongst our children. And then, so that, can you please help me in getting this off the shelves? And then part 2, just briefly, that I don't like the way things are being handled in Washington, of course not. But we also we've taken $5 trillion in taxes. We spend $7 trillion. We have $37 trillion in debt. It costs $1 million and trillion. We pay $1 trillion a year servicing that debt. How can we cut? Where can we find the cut? Where can we save the jobs and take it? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and let's go to the question from the overflow room.
Hi, my name is Doug Scales from Dexter, and I want to build on something that Jeff had said.
Could you speak just a little louder?
Hi, my name is Doug Scales from Dexter. I'd like to build on something Jeff had said. Part of what we're really faced with is getting communication as to what's going on in our world, not just here in Ann Arbor where you're speaking to the choir, a choir of the willing. We have to convince people in the red part of Michigan as to what the damage is being done. I would suggest that you get some people who are really good in communicating data analytics, synthesizing the data, and capture how many jobs, which jobs are being lost in Michigan, which towns in Michigan, and put it on a map so that people can, all over the state will see that it's their neighbors and friends in Clare, in Baldwin, you know.
So on this last one, I want to say that I've started giving floor speeches on the floor of the Senate, which we're now posting to YouTube after. I'm not naming the names of people who lost their jobs, but I am talking about the economic impact. We might get to naming names, but that might also put people open to targeting. Talking about the economic impact of some of these federal freezes, the firings, and what it's doing to communities that my colleagues across the aisle represent. So that's one way. I think that's important. I love the idea of a map. If anybody is that tech person and wants to come up and talk to us after, please do. On the sugar thing, I'll just say this. Those are conversations that are happening. But what I have to also say is those decisions are local. And so talking to your school district is a really good way to do that. I think you all need to understand that we in Michigan are still trying to carry on all these other things that need to be done in the state of Michigan, and we're also fighting an authoritarian takeover of our government.
I have a response to the question about can we make a map showing the job cuts. Now, it sounds like folks in the room can conceptualize that a job cut is bad. What we need are fellow Michiganders who are experiencing, facing down a snowstorm tonight. They need to understand how this job cut affects them. The job cut of cutting weather service people affects them because now they don't know how bad the storm is going to be. They don't know how long their electricity might be out. The tariffs are going to affect them because they might not be able to afford their energy. We need to translate the job cuts into how do they affect people's day-to-day life, right? Your weather app on your phone, yeah, it might be great, but it uses federal data. So we need to translate, and we are trying to do that, right? That's part of our job, is to translate the kind of boring government stuff into how does it serve you? How does it affect you? And the thing to remember about government is that it is here to serve the people. There is not a profit motive in government because it's here to serve you. That is the whole point. We're not trying to profit. So remind people of that. The effects of the job cuts is what we really need to be translating for our fellow Michiganders.
And I hate that I believe this is true, but I do. It's actually, I don't think it's data that's going to be convincing to people. It's going to be stories. And so, as Congresswoman Dingell said earlier, telling these stories of the real people and then how that flowed down into the impact. Who didn't get service from their rural hospital when it closed, or from the Indian Health Center when it closed, or just today I heard about a VA homelessness coordinator who was just pink-slipped. And these are the types of stories that we need to get folks out there telling. Because one of the reasons why Trump's numbers are low and getting lower is precisely because when people hear about the real human impacts of what he's doing, they oppose it. And so the anecdotes are crucial.
Okay. And we want to get to everybody. We're not leaving. But if we can ask people to brevity, and we're going to be brief. You don't have to hear from all of us. As a matter of fact, I'd like to let them answer for a while. I'm kidding. Go.
So my question is going to be
not on brevity.
Sorry. It's going to be a little bit different than what you guys have all heard. I'm a scientist who turned into an administrator at the University of Michigan. And I'm very upset with how the NIH cuts for the indirect costs are being handled. It's barely made the news. People in here might not even understand what the indirect costs are. But if it actually fails in the final court case, it will devastate research enterprises at all universities. So my question or ask to you guys are, how come nobody mentions it on the news? No one talks about it? Is it because none of you know exactly what it is? Do you need like a primer on what indirect costs are? I'm willing to help any of you understand it, but we need conversation. I'm all over Blue Sky talking about it, and the only people who talk about it are the scientists, and I can't get the politicians to understand exactly what's happening. So that's my question to you.
Too bad. Next.
Your turn.
My name is Dana Green Jr. I'm a Superior Township trustee. I ran in my first election this past summer and was fortunate to win by 10 votes. a large proportion of my township is a population that is underserved, that is served by public housing. This morning, I was notified that several of my residents woke up to 6 inches of standing water in their parking lot. And so the question I have for you all, and Jimmie Wilson, I would appreciate if you could take the answer on this. What am I supposed to tell my community, folks that look like me, who have felt left behind by the Democratic and the Republican Party for so long? It's not that they don't care, it's that they feel left behind and they have disengaged because they have just felt unserved. So as their local representative, what can I do for them to help them believe that their voices matter and that we are going to make a difference for them? Because while I respect all of you up there and I appreciate your service, at the same time, I think about my own history, my own ancestors. We have fought and we have bled for this country. And too many of us feel left behind, and when we see what's happening right now, we just think more of the same. So tell me, what is it that I can do as a local representative to help the people in my community feel like that they're cared about, that they matter, and that we're actually doing something to help move them forward? Because I hear everybody in here, you are scared. I also recognize the privilege that it is to be in this room. I was able to get in the car. I was able to drive over here. I'm not a single mother, right, who has to catch 2 bus lines to get down to her job at the dining hall at the University of Michigan, right? I'm not the single father that's looking for a way to serve his kids. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap up my question. Just tell me what it is that I can do to make them feel like they can believe in their local government officials again. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me hear you. You're not allowed to leave till we answer that question. All right, because we care. I'm watching.
Awesome.
The outside room.
Yep, right here. Good evening. My name is Dr. Kramer, and I am a research biologist at the Veterans Affairs. I'm also a principal investigator of a VA-funded project. That is a grant that I wrote, VA study session reviewed and VA council funded. Despite the fact that this VA grant supports my research project, including me and my team, I was let go from the Veterans Affairs. VA science is under threat, and we're afraid to speak out because we're in this limbo, because we're afraid to speak out, because we're afraid not only of our research funds, but the people that we support with these research funds. And it's not just me. Our appointments are 3-year appointments, and these appointments are running out on weekly basis. Labs are closing. My veterans are calling my research coordinator, asking what's going on with research projects. What are we supposed to tell her? What is Congress going to do to save VA research?
So I want to thank both of you for your questions, and I'm going to take the two research questions. This is a very serious issue. It is not true that people are not talking about it. It's one of the issues that I'm talking about a lot, but this is the problem with intentional chaos. There's so many issues that people are not paying attention to it. Tomorrow we'll be doing a roundtable listening session with many researchers from the University of Michigan to hear the stories and to raise the stories. But I wanted to open it to the press, and yet they're right, it should not be open to the press because one of the things that I've been doing from the very beginning is trying not to put targets on people's back, because this is a very spiteful, revengeful, it is very real that someone could feel the effects of speaking out. But we need to raise the human stories. So when I hear the stories tomorrow, we're without putting names on them in the ways and we're going to share it with all of you. I got a document, I hope I'm not getting in trouble, that was done by, I'll just say it this generically, from the faculty with more than 80 research projects that are being impacted at the University of Michigan. But I'm going to be blunt. University of Michigan is not one of Donald Trump's favorite universities. They're going after different segments. And I got to protect that money. I got to bring that money in. People do not understand the kind of research that's being done or what happens in the building of those labs. We need everybody to be educating people about what those grants do. The work at the VA, and much of it's together, is like making a difference in veterans' lives. We have to put the human faces on it. You have to help us tell the story so that people understand what is happening. That's what we have to do right now. We're collecting the data. There are a million, I shouldn't say it that way. There are many of us that have portals, but different. We should have one portal. We don't. We're trying to get stories. I have a portal. There's Speaker Pelosi. You got, I wish he was our speaker, Hakeem Jeffries. And people, you all are collecting the stories too. We need them, and we're going to share them with you, and you all need to help us do it. I'm going to let, we care deeply. I care deeply about the question that was over there, but we cannot, I'm going to talk to you after or call you, but I'm going to let Jimmie and anybody else who wants to.
Yeah, I'll address Trustee Green from Superior Township. I would say when you're talking about your constituents that feel like they've been left behind or that all the voting they've been doing just hasn't quite panned out in their favor, show them that you're the elected official that is going to be different, the one that is actually going to be working with them, but you shouldn't have to do it by yourself. As your state representative and also Rep. Morgan, who also shares Superior Township with me, get us involved as well. You should have some backup. You shouldn't have to do it by yourself. But show them that you're not the elected official of yesteryear. You're a new face, and you want to solve problems. And let's start working together to get out there. And we actually have a joint coffee hour coming up over in Superior Township at the library, April 12th, 11 a.m. And so we're going to be out there in that community. And so let's try to get as many people out, and let's hear all their concerns and see how we can work together.
Thank you for sharing your concerns, Trustee Green. And I do want to address this a little bit because I see a little bit of this on the comments in Facebook, and I hear it a little bit from constituents. I can talk a little bit about my experience. When I was chair of the Washtenaw County Board of Commissioners, we got ARPA funds. They called them bipartisan, but those were Democratic funds. And with that, we were able to fund community violence intervention. We were able to work to get the rec center, which I know isn't complete but is underway over in that area, going. We were able to fund small nonprofit organizations that were really nascent and not really ready for funding, but we helped get them ready for funding, and we helped fund them so that people from the community, people of color from the community, could take care of their neighbors. And it made a difference, and it's making a difference, but it takes time. And now I'm in the Senate, so I don't represent that area of the county anymore, an area that I do love. I helped pass the Crown Act. We have the first black female chair of appropriations, and if you don't think that makes a difference, I don't know what's ever going to convince you, because when we're making decisions, that is top of mind for many of us. I'm sorry, we can't solve everything, but I'm telling you, that after many, many years of redlining and disinvestment, we have made more investments in communities. Is it instant? No. We had a Democratic trifecta in the state for 2 years. But let me tell you that today, when we had people in committee talking about having a Black Leadership Council, and the leadership at that table, including me and Jeff Irwin, were saying, yeah, we know about redlining, and we know that you're working. And they're talking about how they made a difference, having their voices heard about getting people vaccinated for COVID. That is a Democratic difference. And let me tell you, I hear my Republican colleagues talk, and it's going to be a world of hurt if they have the power in Lansing like they do in Washington, D.C., because they're actively trying to hurt people of color. So I understand that you may not believe me, and I hear some whatever. We're working hard, and it makes a boatload of difference.
Jason?
Yeah, so to the water issue, so Rep. Wilson and I represent that part of the county. Senator Shink does not represent that part of the county at the moment in the Senate. And so I think that's why, that's a question. But what I want to say is, yeah, Dana, let's talk after this. Trustee Green, he's phenomenal. He's one of the, he's one of those new elected officials who's just incredible. He's a great person, and he's working with us. Like, we're gonna be a team on this. We have to tackle the infrastructure needs in the state. I started my day talking about infrastructure, and that means water and roads. Why do these things happen in our neighborhoods? Because we haven't invested in our infrastructure. I know it's boring, but damn it, good government is boring. So yeah, sometimes it's boring. Like, I taught government here at this college, and I used to tell my students that the best government is probably the things that you've never heard of. It's the water is running, you don't have a pothole, your kids are getting educated, your pipes aren't bursting. Like, that's the stuff that is the nuts and bolts of government. But I do want to say, if anybody really thinks that there still isn't a difference between the Democratic and Republican Party, let me ask you, does it feel different now than it did before January? It doesn't feel different? It doesn't feel different under Donald Trump.
So,
politics under the law. No, it's a what feels different. I am going to come here and I'll be able to vote for you because that is the first thing that happened, and it is still happening right now. Newsom just took his turn.
So I feel an obligation just very briefly to jump in on this one. One, I do represent the constituents in Superior Township, and Trustee Green, I hope that you'll involve me, and I would love to work with the representatives on getting in there and doing exactly what Jimmie said, which I think is exactly right. We need to show up, we need to be present, we need to show people what good representation looks like, and so I commit to do that. Secondly, I really want to talk just really briefly on this piece about cancer researchers. We've talked about this on the floor, we've been trying to get more attention to it. Personally, I think that the way that we can talk about this is incredibly powerful is to not to talk about the researchers, but to talk about the cancer. Cancer is incredibly unpopular. Fuck cancer, right? How many of us know people who've lost to cancer? Every single one of us. How many of the Republicans in the state who voted for this monster know someone who they lost to cancer, right? The research that's done at this university saves lives, it improves lives, it's absolutely core to some of the best things that are happening in our society, and we need to, I think, highlight for folks that, this is pro-cancer and we're all anti-cancer, right? That's been very effective in my conversations with Republican relatives who when you bring that up, they think about the loved ones they've lost.
So Jeff, I'm the one who had the first NIH question, and I just wanted to make a clarifying comment about what I was really asking is for educating the public about, no one in here really knows what IDCs do it's a package of research. You have the direct costs for the actual research, and then you have the indirect costs that fund the entire research enterprise. Nobody mentions that. Nobody understands it.
That is not true that nobody mentions it. We've been working with the media to try to educate them. I've been telling the University of Michigan, working with Kim Eagle and Chris Kolb to get better packages, and I am working on it, and you need to help us educate, but you need to honestly, you got to use the issues that people understand and talk about it in direct language. Sometimes people get too complicated and you lose people. You got to put the human face on it, and that's what matters.
I agree.
And over here, all right, look, you guys, we are really trying to listen and we really care. We have this building until 9 o'clock. We're all willing to stay later. We want to listen to everybody. We're going to ask each of you, we're all going to be brief. We're going to ask you to please state your question and your thoughts, but do it in a way that allows us to hear from as many people as we can. So let's go.
Hi, my name is Nick Herget. Live here in Ypsilanti. What I would ask of you is, I'm sorry that you feel like you're under attack from
I don't. I mean,
from your
I
constituents.
feel like you all do. Angry.
But what I ask is that my entire life, what I have seen is the Democratic Party hold respectability over all else. And the Republican Party take advantage of that and flood every level of government with bullshit. And you mentioned earlier that you didn't want to use those tactics, and I ask for you to reconsider that. That is my ask to you. Frivolous bills, opine over minutia, let them hear you. They don't respect you. Please be willing to wrestle in the mud.
I'm not sure I said exactly that. Over here. Yes.
Hello. First, I want to say thank you to Representative Dingell. You've been very active in our district for as long as I've lived there on some very, very small issues that impacted a small amount of people, but you were there. And I just want to say I appreciate that. I'm sure you don't remember with all the millions of people that you see.
No, I do. I was there when there was flooding.
Yeah. No, not flooding. I'm in
But there
Saline.
was flooding too.
I also want to shout out to Nicole, who just left, my friend who lost her job. I also want to say that the dismissive attitude, it sounds a lot like a superintendent I know who said we just hired 2 black people. And I know you know that. That's what that sounds like. We just hired 2 black people. That's what it sounds like. When you say we don't want to form a circular firing squad, when you talk about how we've done this, we've done that, when you talk about safety, I've never felt safe one day in my life. When you talk about being worried about protests, and I do have a question and I will get to it. My question is, why am I supposed to vote for you when you tell me that we're disengaged and our people didn't show up, when the first day after the election, the first thing they did was talk about identity politics, throw the trans community under the bus. Today, Governor Newsom threw the trans community under the bus, okay? Our Alyssa Slotkin went up there and talked about Reagan, not one Democratic politician. I didn't see anybody walk out with Representative Green.
Yes.
Okay? You want me to vote for you, but you dare to sit there and dismiss people's concerns and this dismissive look on your face? I've been black my whole life. Why am I supposed to vote for you? And why is the queer community supposed to come out and vote for you when, excuse me, I don't care. I'm also a female and I've been shut down by enough men. So shut up.
All right,
You said, our Democratic politicians voted to, Alyssa Slotkin, she voted with 50% of Trump appointments, second highest for a Democrat, okay? Why are we supposed to vote for you when you say that we're the ones forming the circular firing squad, but you're also the ones not talking about the centrist think tank saying we need to take a hard right turn? Because I can tell you now, the dismissive remark you made, if you ran in my county, you would lose my vote. Okay? And I can guarantee you, the black women that were sitting here, you lost their vote, because they weren't even going to ask questions. Why should we vote for you? That is my question.
Thank you, and we'll answer all 3 of these. I want to respond now, but and if we can get the 3rd question.
Hello, Debbie. Ooh, sorry. I've met you in better circumstances. I've also met with Carrie and Jimmie Wilson Jr. In Lansing, Carrie at Repro for All events, and I appreciate your support in all of those areas. I'm grateful to have the chance to take this time and speak with you. And I want to take a second to, once again, address the decorum. We are in the midst of an administration who has no decorum. And watching Hakeem Jeffries sit on his hands and say, we can't do anything, when every Republican, when they were the minority, were able to grind everything to a halt with sand in the gears every 5 seconds. I'm tired in some ways of hearing that. We need that energy, and that deflates us. I'm a protester. I want to ask you, and I heard you earlier saying you want to do it right, and I respect that. Unfortunately, we don't have time to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I need you to promise to elevate the protests. Talk about them on Blue Sky, Twitter, in your offices. Show everyone that you respect them coming out to vote for you and to put up their voices. I'm going to use this. Oh, and sorry. And follow the examples that are working in the areas that they are. There's AOC. Bernie is doing a huge tour talking about ending the oligarchy. Al Green stood up and showed us more guts than anyone in that entire room, and he was censured and Democrats voted for it. That is disgusting. Yes, they have their freedom to speech, but they will answer for it from their voters. There's a story from World War II that submarine captains who started the war did not take German ships, and they needed to be replaced with younger captains with less experience who were willing to take risks. And right now, we need people who are willing to take risks. I don't want to live in Russia 2.0. I don't want to watch every good person become an Alexei Navalny and die in prison because Donald Trump fills his diaper with Russian propaganda. We need to stop that, and stopping that will take risk.
So, look, by the way, I came out day one. I have not been an elected official that has hid anywhere. I have spoken up, spoken out, and in case anybody's noticed, Donald Trump hates me. I wrote, I have a long history with him. A year ago, I wrote an op-ed in the New York Times about why it was important to stand up to Donald Trump. So I've not been shy about standing up to Donald Trump. And I want to say, I don't see where she is, but I didn't say that your community didn't vote. Nobody would be here if they didn't care, they weren't engaged. We respect and really value you. But there are a lot of people that think their vote doesn't matter, democracy matters, whatever happens, and now they're angry, and that's who the people that didn't come out and care. And I think when I talk about a circular firing squad, I want us to all focus on where we need to focus right now. I want to try to help every single person. I am willing to stand up, stand out, and you know what? If I end up, I get death threats every day now, and if I end up dying and it makes sense our democracy, so be it, because it's worth saving. But I'm sorry, it is. But I'm not afraid to. But I'm also trying to keep us focused on not attacking each other. And we got to be, I'm not, I got my style, but my style's not, Donald Trump doesn't like me and has been going after me since his first term. If you'll all recall, he came to Michigan and said John was looking up from hell and was mad at me then and has never laid off me. So, and that's okay, because I'm going to stand up to him, because when he's wrong, I'm not afraid to tell him he's wrong, and I'm not afraid to fight for this democracy. So we got to support each other. And I don't feel under attack tonight. I want to hear from you. And I know people are angry and direct that anger at us. But also I got to fight to save this democracy. And if we let them pit us against each other, we're going to help them win. That's what I'm asking. And everybody matters.
Debbie, we are angry with you. We are angry as well. We are angry together about what is happening to our country. And I didn't quite get to finish earlier, but I got married in this very building 2 years ago to my husband, John. I promise you, I feel it when folks are attacking my right to be who I am, my right to be gay and to be open about that. I grew up in a place where that wasn't okay, where I had to hide who I was. I moved to Ann Arbor, and that's never been an issue since I moved to this community in this county. Thank you. Last week, we had a colleague who put up a resolution and got 20% of the Republican caucus, a resolution that would ask the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn my right to be married in this state. We have people who are attacking us because of who we are, and they are not backing down. And they got 20% of their caucus, 12 members, to sign on to that resolution. That is outrageous. That is the type of stuff that we're fighting against. And let me tell you, this is a success story so far, though. Because of the calls and the emails and the intensity, we held a press conference earlier that day before he could announce it. Half of those people, 6 of those people who signed on to his resolution, literally scratched their name off because of how much pushback they got. Our voices do matter. The work that we're doing matters. And we are mad with you, and we are fighting every step of the way. And some people told me, they said, well, that's never going to pass because you have a Democratic governor and a Democratic Senate. I said, I don't give a damn whether it's going to pass or not. I'm going to fight back because it could pass. Anything is possible these days. And I'm not willing to put any of our rights on the table or at risk. We have to push back every single time they come at us and anyone in any of our communities. We have to. So I just want to say, like, we passed legislation last term, protect gay and trans folks, LGBTQ people in our state from unemployment discrimination, from housing discrimination. We passed legislation that could not get passed in 40 years because we didn't have a Democratic trifecta in 40 years. We got that passed. We protected my right and many of our rights, and your kids or parents, any loved ones you know who are LGBTQ. We protected our right to not be fired or kicked out of our housing because of who we are. That's the difference of some of the stuff that we can do when we have the majority in all of our chambers. But we're also fighting back every step of the way, and we are not going to let anything get by us if we have the chance and if we have the ability. But it takes us all fighting together and in the same direction and being unified. As hard as that is, we are all hurting very deeply right now, and we are all angry. But let's be angry and hurt together and be unified as much as we can at the end of the day.
So one thing I heard was asked from us was, can we respond in like, right? We have Steve Bannon telling everybody to flood the zone with BS, right? So how do we do that? So we need all of you to be amplifying your own posts on various social media. We are trying to amplify each other's. I heard the call to amplify protests. I have been doing that, and I've been showing up to protests. But one thing I want to say is, you know, we have these rules of decorum, right? Well, today when the Republicans brought this budget that cuts 92% of our state budget, we, you know, are supposed to let people speak and whatever. We actually shouted down their speaker, and they turned off their mic because we shouted them down. So it does happen. But this is such like a boring procedural thing. How is that ever going to break through with the bullshit coming from DC? So we know as Democrats, we can support transgender people. We can support our black sisters and brothers here in Washtenaw County and across the state and still win elections. We know that we can do that. We don't have to throw people under the bus. Right now, we have Republicans this morning in the State House. They had a press conference trying to force the Michigan High School Athletic Association to follow whatever BS came out of DC. And the thing is, there are how many transgender girls playing sports in the winter and spring right now? 0. Why are they focusing on something that happens to 0 people in Michigan when we have 10 million Michiganders who need to eat, need to have clean air, need to have clean water, need to be able to afford their housing? They are focused on the wrong thing. We're focused on you. They're focused on lining the billionaires' pockets that fund their campaigns. Elon Musk bought the presidency, and the DeVosses are buying the State House.
Okay. We're going to go to the next 3. We're going to try to do this but we want to hear from everybody. We'll all, I know they're all going to agree, we'll do another town hall. They may kill me. But we're really trying to hear from, and we need to thank Washtenaw Community College for hosting us too. Next.
Thank you. I want to respect everyone's time. I will try to do my best. I time myself at 54 seconds. I will try to be quicker than that, though. But Representative Morgan, your colleague, the Democrats need to play dirtier than this. Your colleague, we've been calling him Contriver Shriver for at least 5 months. What? Call them names. They do worse to us. My name is Bree. Please hold your applauses because time. I apologize. I am a founder and executive director of a transgender advocacy nonprofit from here. I'm also the founder and CEO of a local aerospace startup from here. And so I am a busy person. I respect time. I was just in Washington, D.C. on Saturday with over 1,000 people of our community, the trans and non-binary community, at the U.S. Capitol, rallying, marching to the White House, sharing our voices, showing America who we are, our needs right now. And the biggest thing, cutting through all this bullshit that I have here, is that we need the Democratic Party to stand actively by our side yesterday. And I have 3 quick questions. First quick question, will you all unequivocally support our community with protective legislation, or are we here on our own? 2, Congresswoman Dingell, when the Equality Act is reintroduced, that might be in a month.
I'm already a co-sponsor.
Will you work with the Congressional Equality Caucus to make sure that if we
I'm
are
a member of the
erased,
Equality Caucus, and I've already co-sponsored the bill. It's being circulated. So yes, it really does matter, I promise.
we will follow up. And then third, for everyone else here, will you stand in solidarity with us at the Michigan Capitol on March 30th, Sunday? Yes or no? Those are all yes or no questions. I yield my time to the floor, Madam Speaker.
Could you, we'll go over here. And,
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay. Well,
thank you.
first of all, I think I'm the only analytical type in a room full of emotives, so sorry guys. And although there is place for, being emotional and showing up and everything, my reaction to the last 10 years is that I see the accumulation of a 50-year plan by the Republicans that is dastardly. And I think what the response is to be organized, strategic, and to find out what everyone's skill here is, their passion, and then even the people who don't vote Democratic, what drives them. So, for example, Trump did all this micro-targeting about young men who were afraid that Biden was going to get into a war. Well, who's looking at a war now, right? And then men's health and the anti-vaxxer movement, all those little micro-communities. Well, maybe you guys are doing it, but I don't hear it, first of all. But anyway, lifelong independent, I said to myself, what can I do? And I thought, well, I'm good at organizing. So I decided to join the Democratic Party, which I did. And here's the problem, is that to join it, all I had to do was give $5. Fine, I did that. But then I never got an email from them, and I didn't get anything that said I could go to the Democratic Convention. So I proceeded then to follow up, I think 4 or 5 times, no response. I tried calling their phone number on the website. It's not working. We got to start with organization. So that's my number one point. And then I have 2 questions. One is, the easy one, what happened with this vote on the House budget bill? And then secondly, my understanding of the Constitution is that Congress has the right to do tariffs. And so why is Donald Trump doing it? And if I understand that correctly, he's got this made-up idea of a national emergency, and is that being challenged in court?
Thank you. And our third question?
Hello. Hello. I'm Jade. I'm a resident of Ann Arbor, and I also wanted to ask about trans rights. So first of all, I did want to thank all the state representatives and state senators here for everything you did for us during the last 2-year session. If you told me 2 years ago that in only 2 years Michigan would become a world leader in trans rights, I would have laughed in your face, but you all actually made that happen, and thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. But in the current political situation, the battle isn't over, and Trump has basically made us his public enemy number 1 in all his propaganda, in his speeches, in his campaign. There's a bill right now before the State House, House Bill 4024, and I believe there's a Senate companion, Senate Bill 9, that would be a statewide trans bathroom ban, would ban people like me from using the bathroom in buildings like this. And I know I am terrified for my life, and I constantly hear from my friends who are trans that they're terrified for our life, and all of us are really scared seeing people like Governor Newsom throw us under the bus, that Democrats we used to trust will throw us under the bus. I became a Democrat because of everything you did for us over the last 2 years. But this is a national emergency for the trans community. Can we count on all of you to continue fighting for us in this circumstances? Thank you.
Jason, you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tackle the last one here, really. We will never stop fighting for the trans community here in our state. None of us here will ever stop fighting for the trans community. When they come after one of us, they come after all of us. Like, it's just what we will never stop fighting. There is a bill in the House. We are going to fight that like hell. If it does pass the House, we have a Democratic Senate and a Democratic governor, and so that will not go into law. But we're still going to fight it like hell because it's just hateful and bigoted and intended to other people, to put them out and to make people targets of other hateful, bigoted stuff. It's dangerous, and it causes violence in a way that is unacceptable. So that is why it's important to push back in the House, and we are going to do that. But that is the difference, again, between having a Democratic governor and a Senate. That bill will not go into law right now for this next 2 years. We don't know what will happen after the next election, but if we hold on to at least one of these chambers, then we can stop that from going into law. But we are not going to stop fighting for you and with you because we have to. But we are going to also be up against these attacks from the federal government, and we're going to push back every step of the way. We're going to have the AG file lawsuits to try and protect our trans community if there are things that come down from the federal government. We're going to have to use all the tools at our disposal to protect folks, but we've got to do it. As for the rally on the 30th, I don't know what folks will be there, but I'll follow up with you afterwards, and that's really important too, because we've got to show people. We don't just have to stand with the trans community. We have to show people who are standing with the trans community and really put our actions behind our words.
We gotta. Do you want to answer the tariff question? Oh, the tariff. Almost. The tariff. Hey, it's complicated. Like, that one's really but, and by the way, I'm not totally opposed to tariffs because I think tariffs are a tool in the toolbox. I'm opposed to the way that they've been used by putting them straight across the aisle, and did a conference call today with Doug Ford, who's the premier of Ontario. And I've got a call. I met with the Canadian ambassador. They're our ally. They're our closest ally. They're not good. So we are doing what we can congressionally. You know, one of the problems is we are trying to litigate. Congress doesn't have standing, and everybody's like, why is the Congress not suing more? We want to, but we don't have standing, believe it or not. We have to find a person that's been harmed to have the standing to sue. And Donald Trump won. I'm going to be blunt with you, Michigan in 2016, because you talked about trade and Democrats didn't. And I'll use a tariff against China that is subsidizing or actually, paying for its product and not paying a decent human wage and importing it into this country deliberately to undercut our prices so they can take over the global market and then screw the world. That's where you use a tariff, and we should be doing it. And I'll always fight for that. But we are fighting him on this. We're figuring it out. It's just another. I know you guys are tired of hearing us. We're figuring it out. He's hitting us on all fronts, so we don't. I am not. If anybody, we're fighting back. Trust me. Richie Neal, chair of the Ways and Means Committee, is very strong on this. But the unions in this state are not unhappy by what he's doing either. Just for the record, they don't want to see the increase in consumer costs. But they also, like I do, want to bring manufacturing back, supply chains. We don't have steel production, and we need to bring pharmaceutical production back to this country. 80 to 90% of our drugs are produced in China or India. That's a national security issue as much as it's economic security. All right. I'm getting really worried. We have 9 minutes and we want to talk to everybody.
Okay, thank you. My name is Pravina. I am the chair of the Thurston Nature Center, which is the country's oldest environmental education center in the country. It is also an important body of water that is headwaters for Miller's Creek that feeds the Huron River. It is also the second most unstable creek shed in the entire watershed. It's on school property, and our community organized. So I want to thank, Congressman Dingell, Senator Shink, and State Representative Conlin for their letters. But what was really difficult for us is that we tried to organize. We had to work with the city. We had to work with the county. We had to work with different people. And what I'm asking is, how do you work together? Because this issue affects our entire county, affects our water, affects our community, affects our nation, because this is the oldest environmental education center, and it will be developed on by Ann Arbor Public Schools, which voted to proceed with it. So what I'm asking is, how do we organize? You told us, Obama told us organize, it's grassroots, we organized, we had a petition, we organized and tried to come together, and we were not heard. We were not allowed to present at the meeting. We were not allowed to do what we were told to do. May I speak, please? Thank you. So my question is, when can elected officials work together with issues that impact our community for generations in our state and our city? And secondly, how can we organize and not be pushed down and be dismissed and have a voice if you're telling us to do this?
Yeah. Wait, there's more. Are we supposed to take one from each?
Oh. Yeah, one from each.
I think we're over here.
You're up.
Oh, I'm up.
Yeah.
First off, I just want to thank all you guys for everything you do. I'm not really into politics, but I feel like I gotta voice my opinion about. Ain't nobody in this room said anything about the youth since I've been here, and I'm just wondering why not, because that's like the future of our generation. It don't matter who is in office, we still got the future to care about that's coming up. But I'm from Washtenaw County. I'm a resident of Washtenaw County. I'm actually the guy that called Dana today because I run a program in our county helping marginalized communities, underprivileged young people from just the whole county. God told me to stay away from politics. 4 years ago, I was sitting on my bunk eating a honey bun in Michigan Department of Corrections. I've been in front of the top juvenile department, DOJ, Elizabeth Ryan, in front of Biden administration. She was looking over the juvenile justice system and all that good stuff. I'm just nervous right now for these young people that's system involved right now. These young people that don't probably have the social emotional learning to control their emotions when they get in contact with law enforcement. I'm concerned about families that's in these marginalized communities that's not educated right now, that can't tell who even you guys are. I'm concerned about that population. I'm concerned about single moms. I'm concerned about teachers that's fighting for rights to have every equal kid opportunity. I'm concerned about that too. It's just a lot of things I'm concerned about because I never thought I'd be in a room talking like this because I just never thought I was.
You're great.
We in Washtenaw County, 370,000 people, marginalized communities, 48197, 48198. That's the majority of the black population. We got a couple sectors in 48103 in the west side. I went to Ann Arbor Skyline, so I've been on both sides of the community. And it's just so scarcity in Ypsilanti right now. With parents that lack education, that don't know its resources accessible to them. I'm very concerned because I have kids I run an intense mentoring program with some of our, if you want to put it in the system involvement, our most high-risk young people, but some of them high-risk young people as a leader, that's like me, with 14 felonies on their record. I don't have a degree, but I'm still believing in my dreams when people pulled it away from being system involved. But I'm standing here for just representation for all black and brown youth across the country. Because I asked, a person told me dealing with gun violence, one of the brothers, he said, I got into this work because I had a lot of friends that had gun violence, but I never had a white friend that he met that actually was my white friend, and he died from gun violence. And I had to think about that. Like when I was growing up, all my friends went to Skyline, Pioneer, Huron, and ain't none of them died to gun violence. They all, you know, it's people that look like me. And I love all people. God told us to love all people. I'm not a Republican, a Democrat. I just love everybody. I want everybody to win. And I just want to just voice this because 4 years ago, I was sitting on my bunk eating a honey bun when people took away my dreams. And I don't want this system that's in front of these people that's uneducated, probably unrepresented, that they don't know what's going on, and they get misdirected by people that is using poverty pimping and all them words. I even been called flavor of the month in Washington County. I don't know why. It was just something somebody called me. I don't know why. I asked a lot of people. I didn't even know what it meant. But I'm here to stand for the young people because we have to stand up for each other. This is a generation that's moving very fast with Chat GPT and all this stuff. And I just want to have a voice that, can y'all please talk about the young people? That's all.
Thank you.
There's a third
Question
question in the back.
from the outside room.
Hello, my name is Hannah, and I've noticed a pattern in some of the responses tonight where you're basically asking us to give you ideas, asking us to take initiative, and I agree that we should do that, but I also think that you have responsibility to create opportunities for us. Because I have gotten almost exclusively asks for donations from the Democrats since November. I'm about to turn 19 and I don't have a ton of exposable income, and neither do most people my age. But we do have a lot of passion and ideas. We want to be involved in the way you're asking us for, but electoral politics feels like this fancy club that we don't have the credentials to get into. So I'm not going to ask you what you think we should do, because I know what I want to do. I'm going to ask you, what are you going to do to mentor the next generation of politicians? How are you going to take down the barriers that have kept new people with new ideas out of the room, where we work and campaign and strategize against people like Donald Trump? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to address two things because my children are now in their late 20s and early 30s, and they are so activated and they are working so hard. And my daughter's part of the LGBTQ community, and I am doing all this work for your age group, way more than mine, and for future grandchildren if I get them, and trying to mentor, trying to help anyone. And I'm also just going to say, run for something. Run for school board, run for trustee. I ran for the first time after being a journalist for 40 years at age 60. I had never been in politics, and I was encouraged to run. It was needed for somebody like me to try to win this wacky swing district. And so any way we can mentor any of you, we are here for you, and we will let you know any events we have, like tonight, so that you can all be present, and then we will come to your events. We're just going to have to all get rid of fear and get out there and be together and be united and really fight, because these are incredibly scary times, and we know it. As for Thurston School, I grew up in Ann Arbor, and I know this beautiful area, and you did great community organizing. You got all of us involved in trying to hold on to this beautiful, beautiful area of preserved, gorgeous land. I think, if I know I was not in office when all this truly began, that we need to be as active. We're talking federal tonight, we're talking state tonight, politics, we're talking local, we've heard about Ypsilanti, but you have to keep your eye on everything. And even in this case, I think the community organizing came sort of, they didn't know until sort of what was going on, until it was sort of already done. And the community organizing came in, and we all came together, local, state, city council, and it's Ann Arbor Public School land, and it's really hard to fight. It's just a hard thing to fight. And those conversations probably should have happened at the get-go, right? So we need to keep our eyes on everything, not that we want to distrust each other, but at the end of the day, there are different constituencies who are affected by things, and you need to watch what's going on, keep really aware of what's happening around development in your area, around any kind of movement, around preservation of land, all these things, around housing, which is so necessary, and make sure you see everything and activate if it's not looking like something that's going to work for your community.
So I'm being told we have to close because Washtenaw Community College only gave us this to 9 o'clock. I think we will all commit to do this again as soon as we can. I want to say this to you. We are here fighting with you, for you. You've energized us to work with you for more. We need you. We can't do it by ourselves. I'm just going to say that to you honestly. But I think every one of us up here can make the commitment to you that we are going to think out of the box. We are going to fight. You need to understand, everybody here, you've got elected officials that aren't quiet, that don't put their heads down, they don't hide when the going gets tough. We're not perfect. We don't have all the answers. Some of you are really smart, smarter than us. You got ideas? We'll help implement them. We need all of us. We're only going to win this. We're only going to be able to fight for those values we all care about, for this democracy, for the people that we serve.
I've got an idea right now.
What?
I've got an idea right now. If you give us the stories, I'm working on scripts, and I want to get every single public meeting in Washtenaw County that has public comment. I want 2 or 3 people there, and I want them to stand up and tell the stories of all the Michiganders that have lost their jobs, and I want them to give a well-deserved civics lesson.
We'll do that. We'll
so
work with
can
you.
we coordinate on that? And if you want to do it, come talk to me.
And if you want to be involved in getting the money out of politics and the transparency around that dark money, see the ballot issue that's going to be coming out this year and get involved.
Thank you, everybody. Contact any of us. We'll do this again very soon. And if you got an idea, share it with any of us. Thank you very much.